LAC Flying School. Our next pre-flight briefing is for the second half of climbing and descending. So our aim is still the same, to climb and descend the aircraft at recommended speeds. And again, that will take into account of the aircraft you are flying. Threats and errors, quite a few of them today. So threats are the airplane still, obstacles on the ground, engine overheating and terrain from the hills, for example. Errors, wrong pressure settings, radio frequencies, running out of fuel, climbing into controlled airspace or altitude busts where we climb beyond the altitude we were targeting. Also CFIT, which stands for Controlled Flight into Terrain. And finally, our flap limitations, our VFE speed. Now the way we're going to manage these is by keeping that lookout going at all times, keeping those feeder checks going at correct intervals. Our climb and descent checks. Also, we're going to use now a chart to keep an eye on the terrain and any obstacles, as it shows a 3D picture of the area we are flying in. Also shows the airspace and controlled airspace in that 3D picture. So it's very useful for our vertical navigation. For the air exercise, initially our revision by our takeoff, having a look at the max rate of climb, feeder checks and gliding descent. Just practicing what we covered again in the last flight. Moving on to new material, we have a look at the max angle of climb, which gives us a higher climb angle for the distance over the ground. It's going to be a new attitude. The nose is going to be a higher pitch attitude than normal, but we're going to keep a good scan of the airspeed, because the airspeed we're going to be flying slower than we have done previously. Going to keep an eye on the balance and make sure the aircraft's in balance at all times. And during the maintenance, if we need to do any weaves, we're going to make sure they're nice and gentle, because again, we are flying slower. Apart from these differences, it is the same technique, same process as the max rate of climb. For the cruise climb, again, it's exactly the same process. It would be just a different attitude outside the nose, this time a 90 knot attitude. So again, we'll just demonstrate in the air where the horizon is sitting in the canopy. At all times, remember the attitude controls the airspeed. Now, climbing with flap. We're going to have a look at the effects different flap configurations have on our rate of climb. And essentially, we'll find that the more flap configuration you use, the more drag, so the less rate of climb we're going to get. Eventually, if we wanted to now improve our rate of climb, if we add all our flaps down, initially we'd want to use full power and nose to the horizon. Looking to raise any drag flap immediately, and drag flap is the final stage of flap. It is the last stage we have. Once we're climbing, we can then raise the rest of the flap in stages and gradually reduce the flap setting. Remember, in all stages, the attitude controls our indicated airspeed with full power set. So that is climbing with flap. Descending with flap, maintaining that constant airspeed. If we lower the flap, it's effectively increasing the drag, which is going to reduce our airspeed. Now, to stop that reducing airspeed, we'd have to lower the nose, pitch down to maintain the same. So in summary, an effect that has of increasing flap increases our rate of descent. Now the effect of power on our descent is that we increase the power, our speed increases. Now to prevent that, we need to raise the nose. We have to pitch up to a higher nose attitude to keep the same airspeed. So effectively, if we want to increase the power, we reduce the rate of descent. We're not going to be going down as quickly. Now the practical applications of these will be used when you're in the circuit and doing your approach and landings. So what the instructor may go through with you is setting the aircraft up on the initial stage of the approach. The way we will do that is by doing a good lookout first, doing our pre-entry checks into the descent, and then setting the power to 1500 RPM. Holding the attitude initially, the speed will reduce. As soon as you're inside the white arc, we will then select either 20 degrees of flap or 25 degrees, depending on the aircraft you fly at the school. Maintaining the attitude still at this point. Once you reach your target speed, adjusting the attitude and trimming. Now at this point, we can have a practice at controlling the rate of descent. Controlling the rate of descent by that effect of power. Remember at the time, the attitude will control the airspeed, the power will control the rate of descent. So it's a relationship, it's a coordination between the two. There's always a relationship between power and pitch. Now, if we wanted to do a go-around, that means to re-establish a climb, is very similar to what we talked about earlier about climbing with flap. To increase that rate of climb, we have to use full power and nose straight, pitch to the horizon. Raise the drag flap immediately, if it is out. Then once the aircraft is established in a climb, we can then raise the rest of the flap in stages. And then we can trim the aircraft out for the target speed. Remember, the attitude controls the airspeed. So that's pitching to the correct attitude. And that is our climbing and descending. So thank you for watching. Goodbye.